Hello everyone, welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone settling into 2022? I've got to say, I'm not feeling it. We started out with another lockdown, so my kids are home yet again, and I don't know, I think I'm the same as everyone else, and I'm just burning out a little bit with the whole thing. So we're rejigging our schedule, we're fitting in our regulation cycles as we can, and hopefully we'll be able to reemerge soon and actually start enjoying our new year. Now, I know here in Ontario we're locked down and schools have gone virtual, but that's not the case for everyone. And around the end of November going into December, I had a lot of discussions with parents about bullies and dealing with discord between kids that are in care, so daycare, preschool, school, and how to teach their kids to navigate those situations. So I figured, let's start off the year by diving into that, as for many of you, your kids are actually returning to their activities after the holidays. Lucky you. Before I do that though, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alana Robinson and I'm a parenting coach for parents of toddlers, preschoolers, and kindergartners. I help you understand why your kids are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I'm also the host of the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I'm the creator of the Parentability program where I help you raise well-behaved kids of your own. Before we get started, please say hi if you're watching. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments. And while you're here, like and subscribe so that you never miss another class. All right, so bullies. They're a very unfortunate reality. I've dealt with them. It's been a while since I was in front of a camera. My sons have dealt with them. It's inevitable, and there's nothing that you can really do to avoid them or help your child avoid them. Generally, when we find out that our child is the target of a bully, we immediately become mama bear, right? How dare they hurt my child? What is being done to protect my child? How could the parents allow this? Our minds go wild. And our focus is naturally on our own kid because they're our responsibility to protect. And we naturally go into attack mode on the other kid or parents because we want to defend our child. And I'm not judging anyone for this. These are really base instincts at play here and nobody can avoid them, not even me. When my son told me that a kid at school was physically attacking his friend, not even him, his best friend, I immediately got indignant and defensive because that's how our brain is wired to work. In a hunter-gatherer society, if someone attacks your kid, you attack back. It's pretty instinctual. So totally have your mama bear response in the privacy of your own home, okay? Be mad. Rue the people responsible by all means. But after you've calmed down from that, I want you to take some nice deep breaths and remember something. Kids do well if they can. Even bullies. The kid hurting your kid, that's the best option they can think of to solve their problem. What problem? Well, that's what their parents and their teachers should be working together to figure out. Generally, however, they're so panicked trying to mitigate the threat or they have yet to discover that kids do well if they can. So they're working on punishments because they want to demonstrate to you and anyone else involved that they're doing something about it. They're making the child pay. But overwhelmingly, what I hear from my clients and parents on Facebook and Instagram, and my own experience reinforces theirs, is that doesn't actually solve the problem. In fact, if anything, it generally escalates it because we know that punishments don't work. The bullying gets worse. The attacks get more aggressive or violent. The kids get more sneaky. And generally, the result is that the kids end up getting separated. One of the kids changes classes or rooms, and the adults do everything in their power to avoid any contact between them. Which, I will admit, does generally work as long as it's sustainable. But if those kids come in contact again, if there's only one kindergarten class and they both have to be at the local school, if suddenly the other kids needs care and there's only one mixed group for aftercare, if they end up on the same soccer team or in the same swim class, the problems are right there waiting for you. So it's probably going to be up to you to refocus everyone. And you can do that by simply asking, what problem is this child trying to solve? And how are you helping him solve it without hurting my child? I'll say that again because I kind of stumbled through it. What problem is this child trying to solve? And how are you helping him solve it without hurting my child? It's a really powerful question because it generally catches everyone very much off guard. They're expecting you to ask how the child is being dealt with, what punishment they're being given, which is a pretty useless question because generally, due to privacy laws, they can't even tell you that. And all they can tell you is that it's being dealt with. So when you ask what problem is happening between these two kids and how can we help them solve that problem, that brings you back into the loop. It's no longer us versus them. It's no longer that kid's issue. It's one that you need to be part of the collaboration to solve. It puts you and the bully's parents on the same team. Now, they might not be able to tell you any more about what's going on with the other kid, but it opens the conversation between you and the teachers versus letting them shut you down with it's being handled. And in my experience, most teachers do have good suggestions of how we could support our own child to no longer contribute to the problem. Now, I'm not saying that our kids are responsible for getting bullied. They aren't. But like it or not, bullies don't operate in a silo. They're part of your child's community, and chances are there's some minor changes that you can help your child make that will reduce their vulnerability as a target. This can include simple things like learning how to say stop loudly and forcefully. This was at play with my child's oldest best friend. They were inseparable, but his BFF was the only one getting physically attacked. And when I asked the teacher why, she said that my son had very firm boundaries. If he was touched in a way he didn't like, he bellowed, "Stop! You do not have consent to touch my body like that." And he would physically push this kid away. So after a few attempts, the kid stopped. His friend didn't have that confidence yet, though. His response to getting attacked was to shut down. So we worked with both boys to practice standing up for each other and for themselves. Now, in this instance, his friend's parents did decide to move him out of the class, but they still saw each other in the schoolyard and in public, and the problem did stop everywhere. In fact, Logan actually befriended this kid and ended up teaching him how to appropriately initiate rough play with him and other kids in the class. Another example is practicing facilitating games. My youngest's bully was excluding him from all kinds of games that Owen was trying to involve himself in, but the other child was saying all sorts of inflammatory stuff like, "No, you can't play with us," or "Don't play with him." Owen's my youngest. He's used to his older brother organizing the games, so he was happy to fall in line with this kid's games, but he just wasn't being included. So we started practicing facilitating games at home and teaching him how to organize games more intentionally. We practiced setting boundaries and expectations before playing a game, and before long, the other kids wanted to play Owen's games more because they were safer. And when the bully eventually asked to play, Owen knew how to set some boundaries while still allowing him to play so that he wasn't just turning around and becoming the bully. Often teachers will say something like, they're having difficulty sharing X toy or similar. Great, that's a solvable problem. So we can get like a second one of these toys. Can I send in a social story about turn taking? My oldest had this issue because we do turn taking, not sharing. And another kid kept ripping the toy out of his hands when he was still using it. So by using a turn-taking social story, it helped this other kid understand why my son wasn't just handing over the toy the second he demanded it, and how he could get that toy. If I just freaked out about the fact that he bit my kid, and my husband will attest that I had a nice little meltdown at home about it, we never would have solved that problem. There's so much that we can do with our own children, even if we can't be told the whole story. But only if we ask the question of what problem is this and how can I help solve it? Because all behavior is communication. I know you're sick of hearing it. I'm sick of saying it. But everybody keeps forgetting behavior is communication. They're trying to tell us something. So if a child is attacking your child, there's a message in there that we need to uncover. And we aren't going to uncover it by shaming them and punishing them. And we aren't going to solve the problem. So next time your child finds themselves in conflict with another child, I really encourage you to ask, what's the problem and how can we solve it? Keep the focus on the problem that needs solving, not the behavior that everyone wants to shun. That small perspective shift makes all the difference in the world and leads to durable solutions that create a safer environment, both emotionally and physically, for our kids and for the bully. No child wants to be the bully. No child wants to feel like the only way to get their needs met is to hurt another child. No child wants people to hate them. But if that's the only way that they can see to get their needs met, you bet your ass that they're gonna do it. So a much more effective way to deal with it is to try and find a way to teach them to meet their needs that doesn't involve hurting others. But to do that, we have to humble ourselves enough to be curious about what is actually going on, what problem needs solving. So what do you think? Can you see how this is a more effective and durable way to deal with bullies? This is definitely one of those situations where the theory sounds great. But when you go to put it into practice, it's rarely as simple as it sounds. That doesn't mean it's not doable though. And you can always pop into the Parenting Posse to talk it through. The link for the group is in the description. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week for another Uncommon Sense parenting class. Bye.